thank you for being here. We know this is the next to last session.
The penultimate session.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're just going to be in conversation. And then we're going to have an opportunity. We'll be in conversation with each other. Mm-hmm. And you guys get to listen in. And then they get to ask you questions.
Yes. So think.
Wonderful. So we were talking backstage about some of the hardships that come with being a black woman, being a woman in comedy, a black woman in comedy, but we also said that there's a lot of joys. So let's start on a high note.
Yeah.
Talk to us about some of the joys.
There's so many joys. I feel like I've benefited from being in comedy because it feels like it can be a solitary art form. Like if you're doing stand-up, you could be on stage by yourself. It seems like you write by yourself, but I've found my most collaborative community in the stand-up and comedy world. Like, I've met my best friends there. My best friend Nicole Byer I met through comedy, and it's nice to be able to like find your people and find your pockets, and then have audiences come and find you and be able to relate to your stories and your experiences. And also, comedy is so great because you get to be authentically yourself. Like, I get to tell my story, and not many realms of media let you do that. So I feel very fortunate to be a part of this community and be able to reach an audience who can relate to what I'm saying.
That's great.
Yeah.
So speaking of what you get to do in comedy, your new stand-up special, The First Woman, is streaming now, so everyone can watch it.
Go watch it.
Where can they watch it?
You can watch it on YouTube for free if you want to.
Just
type my name in. It's the first thing that pops up. And my producing partner, 800 Pound Gorilla, they also have it on their website. You can pay whatever you want if you want to contribute and feel like you're one of the producers of the special, because I self-produced it. It's my second special ever, first one I've ever produced, and which is a very cool experience, like being able to truly have ownership of my work, which I don't know if you guys are like following the strikes that are happening right now, but like that's a big issue, and I'm really proud to be able to like own my work and have like knowledge of what's happening with the art that I'm putting out there, and yeah, I'm just very excited for this time.
Let's continue. Yes, snaps for that ownership. Let's continue with that thread. You know, we started talking about the joys, and then you talked about ownership and the power of that. And I'm sure while that was liberating and amazing, it also was probably not easy.
No.
And so I'm curious, like, what are some of the challenges that you face in your work? Again, with your special, The First Woman, available streaming on YouTube. I'm sure you've found yourself in spaces where you're the first black woman, the only black woman, and what has that been like?
Yeah, I guess I'm used to that position. I went to college at UVA, so I am well versed in being in spaces where I'm one black woman or one of very few black women. And then moving to New York and starting comedy, same thing. But thankfully, when it comes to comedy, funny is funny. So it's like the audience will let you know if they want you to continue. And then you find your people. You find people who you can relate to and who get you and who get your style of humor. And I feel like we're in a time right now where audiences are very vocal about what they want. They're very vocal about wanting to see diversity and hear diverse stories, because that they want to be able to partake in entertainment that represents them. And I feel like that's different than in the past, where you only had like 3 white guys making decisions, and like it's not terribly different but at least studios and producers do listen to money, and consumers have money, and you can make change with the way you spend your money or the way you consume things. So I feel like we are in a powerful time where you can tell that the people are the ones in charge, as opposed to the blank faces that are behind a curtain that we don't know about.
Right. Carrying on with that theme, I'm curious it seems like you feel, I'm going to make some assumptions here, that artists have a responsibility, especially in times like these, right?
Yeah.
To do something. And you're very active. You're part of the ACLU Women's Rights Project. You're here at Feminist Funded 23. Yes, yes. So what drives you to this work?
I guess I can't help it. I really love being a woman, and I love talking about it. And the ACLU actually approached me in 2014, and they were like, "Oh, the work that you're doing kind of aligns with the work we're doing," which is like a huge compliment. And I want people to see that. I want people to see my work and think, "Oh, she's actually like speaking her truth, and that relates to so many people and relates to these issues that we're talking about." And it's funny because I don't ever like write material with the aim of making things political or touching on taboo topics. I'm truly talking about my experience, and because I'm a black woman in America, that is political. So it just comes off that way. And I feel very comfortable taking those roles because I feel like I've learned to do that. Like at UVA, actually, I studied theater, and the first play I did was For Colored Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough. Yeah, amazing choreo poem by Ntozake Shange. And my director would tell the actors to all go out into the audience after the show was over and talk to people and just like get their reactions, answer questions. And people in the audience would have so many like passionate responses to the show and be like, I may not be black, I may not be a woman, I may not be young, I may not have like literally experienced this specific thing that you talked about in this poem, but I related to it on a human level. And I loved that. And that's really what made me want to keep doing this forever. I was like, oh God, like that's what makes me want to like keep connecting with an audience and tell stories and tell truthful stories, because at the end of the day, you can relate on a human level, and you don't have to try to like pander or make everyone fit a certain box. You can just say your truth, and people will find something in it that makes them feel good, or mad, or motivated to like be angry or change things, or confused, or like you can make them feel something. And I that's what I love when it comes to performance and connecting.
And I think in those emotions, we find our shared humanity.
Yeah.
And I think that's the work that a lot of us do here. Clearly, Feminist Funded 23, everyone here cares a lot about gender, and they work in the space around gender and gender justice. But we also care about so many other things, right? And we are, Audre Lorde, right, says we don't get to be single issue voters or single issue people. And so what does your work intersect with things beyond gender? Do you think about, like many folks in this room, we think about climate. There was just an amazing panel up here a little bit earlier around disability rights.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you think about intersectionality in your work?
I don't know if I do. I mean, I don't try to avoid it.
Yeah, of
but
course.
I think because I write from a very personal place, it's specific to me, and I hope people can relate to it no matter what type of person they are. But I think what can be overwhelming for artists is when they try to check every box or get everybody to like them, because then no one really loves you. If everyone likes you, no one loves you. But I have found that just being honest and truthful does make people feel like they are connected to my story. Like I did a show actually in DC years ago, and there was a guy in the crowd who came up to me after the show, and he was like, I want to start off by saying, I voted for Trump. And I was like, bad start. Why are you saying this to me? But he's like, I voted for Trump, but I loved everything you were saying. He's like, I didn't know who you were. I just came to a comedy show, and I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't feel alienated. I didn't feel like I misunderstood anything you were saying. I truly had a great time, and I love hearing your experience, even though this is not a lived experience that I understand, but like, I still had a great time. Which is great, because I don't try to kumbaya, hold hands, and like have everyone feel welcome. Like, yeah, just being myself, and people are still enjoying it. So, I'm focusing more on like the self, I guess, and just hoping people receive it well.
That's right. Yeah, that's beautiful. That is an interesting way to start a conversation with someone. I voted for Trump.
I mean, could have gone a different way.
Could have gone a different way, for sure. So you mentioned your podcast and how in this work you've met your BFF, Nicole Byer. And let's talk a little bit about female friendships and the importance of sisterhood. And you know, what has that friendship meant to you, and just friendships over time around just really building that solidarity?
Oh, I think female friendships are so important. And Nicole specifically, we met in 2009 when we were both starting comedy. Like, we're truly babies in the industry. And we've both been able to grow at the same pace and like be on TV at the same time. And now we're doing movies at the same time. And we made a web series together, and we have a podcast together. We want to write movies together. And it's just so nice to be able to have someone who has had the same experiences and is also a Black woman and like kind of experiences the same things, because the higher you get, the more alienating it can be, because you might be in spaces where you are the only Black woman, or you're the only Black woman who's been through that same journey or been through comedy or whatever. And so I so appreciate that I have someone in my corner who I can go to when I need to vent, or when I have a question, or I have a question about money, and then we like share how much we make on different projects, because no one else will do that. And it's just nice to have allies in this world, because we're just ideally gonna keep going higher and higher and higher, and still have each other.
We will all be here for your rise.
I mean,
as
please.
You and Nicole go higher and higher and higher. Okay, so I want to make sure I'm pronouncing this correctly. You've joked about Femmertizing. Oh, yes.
It's kind of hard. There's like a V.
There's a lot of letters there. Okay, Femmertizing. When ads try to tie themselves to feminism. Mm-hmm. So can you give us an example of this?
Yeah.
And how did you start noticing this trend?
I think I've noticed it for a while. I mean, there's like so many jokes about it online where like people are like, tampon commercials are always like this, and just like a woman like doing flips and like riding a horse.
Living her best life.
Living her best life. And it's like, that's not what I look like on my period at all. And yeah, they get like stranger and stranger where because they know like feminism's in, and so they try to like really lean into that so that women pay more money for more things. And I'm like, I love history, and for my special, there's many jokes where I've like pulled threads and like did a lot of digging on different types of history. And like when I was researching about body hair and like why do women shave their body hair, I found that razors were initially just advertised to men to like shave your beard or whatever. And then they were like, oh, we're not making enough money. We need to tell women that they are so disgusting when they have body hair that they should start shaving. And then that's truly how we started shaving, is because there are these advertisements of like, you'll be alone, you'll die alone, you'll be a spinster, you'll be ugly, you'll be stinky if you don't shave that body hair. And I just think advertising's so fascinating because it's everywhere. You cannot escape it. Yeah. You can't even like be on the street or on a bus or on a train without seeing an ad. And it kind of like gets into your psyche. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to like write a joke about how ridiculous it is when companies try to sell you something under the guise of feminism, mm-hmm. or we're woke now, or like we see you women, sister girl, you are it, like you are every woman, buy our stuff. Yes. Yeah.
So what do you do when you see something like that, and what should we all do when we see it? Because we might still buy the razors, we might still buy the products.
Buy the stuff.
We notice that they're all pink.
Yeah.
But what should we do? Or maybe not what we should do. What do you do? Do you just laugh and you just...
I laugh at it, and then I make jokes about it on stage.
There you go.
And then people can choose whatever they want to do with it. But I think as long as we're not falling for it, as long as we're not maybe buying stuff that's like bad quality or like actually not good for our bodies or that's funding like terrible things and we don't know about it. Actually like researching the products because we like it as opposed to like, it was pink and that seems like it's for me.
That's for me, right.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, I want to kind of move this thread from advertising and femertising, did I get it right that time? So we're all of us in the room, as I said before, we all care very deeply about gender and women and girls, but we also, what brings us together is that we're funders. And we are working to move resources to women and girls. And so I'm going to read this statistic that women and girls make up 51% of the population, but causes specifically serving women and girls only receive less than 2% of all funding. And it's even worse for women and girls of color. And this statistic has virtually been unchanged for over a decade and probably longer. So we talked in the beginning about your role as an artist and a culture creator, and we talked about really highlighting the absurdity of a lot of these things. And can you share an experience when your work had an impact on a social issue or kind of moved the needle on something, maybe in ways you didn't even expect? I mean, you talked about the guy at the comedy special, right? Like maybe you moved him, maybe you didn't. But I'm just curious if either your work personally, the work that you do with the ACLU Women's Rights Project, just where you've seen a time when you think you've had an impact on a social issue.
Yeah.
Or where you would like to.
Yeah.
Looking forward.
I did a comedic news piece on a television show that shall not be named because I'm on strike. But I did a news piece about emojis and how there were no black emojis. And then there were. And I don't know. I don't know if it had to do with me, anything to do with me, but
now
there are black emojis and other races. But I wanted to use satire, and I was like using the bowling ball emoji to show like this could be a black person, or like here these are the options we have. But I like using comedy to bring light to certain issues because I think it breaks people's defenses down. Mm-hmm. It makes them more open to listening and learning, because I think if people feel like they're being shamed or being talked down to, they shut off and they stop listening and they get defensive and they don't want to try to change. But I think when people are laughing, and they can look around and see, oh, other people are laughing too. And also other people who aren't even like me are laughing at the same thing. Maybe we have more in common. I think we get closer to progress and closer to action that could actually be change.
I agree. I have a few more questions for you. Mm-hmm. We're gonna open it up shortly for questions, so everyone can start thinking about what their questions are. Let's talk about, I'm just going to keep bringing up some things that we've talked about over the last few days. And really, while the conference started yesterday, many of us have been here for the whole week. And we had folks go up to the Hill and had a really engaging Senate briefing and just lots of activity. So one of the things that definitely has come up is that we're seeing a lot of anti-LGBTQ legislation, specifically anti-trans laws being made quickly and in record numbers around the country. What do you think feminists need to take action in fighting for the rights of trans community?
I think amplifying voices who are being affected by these restricted rights. Thankfully, there are a lot of trans comedians who are in the biz, and I think hearing their perspective on what's happening from their mouths is really important. Because I can't, that's not my experience. But I think giving them a platform and raising these voices up and giving them space to be angry or have us laugh at it or actually take action is really important. But yeah, I feel like that is what feminists do. I think we're really good at amplifying and like echoing and making a lot of noise because that's how you get things to happen.
Continuing on with some of the themes that we've been talking about this week, with the persistence of the wage gap and the recent rollbacks on laws protecting women's bodily autonomy, it can feel like we are further and further and further away from our goals. I think someone said this morning that it can feel like we take 5 steps forward and 8 steps back. And so how do you take care of yourself in this moment? Because we heard a lot of people this week say they are tired.
Yeah.
They are tired.
Yeah.
So how do you, as a woman of color, as a comedian, as a human being on this planet, take care of yourself, and what keeps you hopeful?
Yeah, I also get tired, and naps are great.
Naps
There's a
are
whole
great.
nap movement happening.
Yes,
where
we were talking about that earlier.
Yes.
The nap ministry.
Yeah, and I was talking to a friend earlier about like work and like, you know, hustling and whatnot, and I'm like, I'm trying to get better at just giving myself permission to rest and that it's okay. Like of course I'm gonna fight, of course I'm gonna work hard, of course I'm gonna hustle, but it's also okay if I sit down for a minute and take a breather, because that's important too, and that will also extend the longevity of how long I can fight and do things. So yeah, definitely self-care. I try to meditate when I can, try to get rest and like make sure my body machine and my mind machine are working how I want them to work. And then, yeah, talking to people, sharing stories. Yeah, this is a very doomsday kind of moment where we keep getting things taken away from us. But like, I shot my special in DC last year, and I have a section in the show where I ask the audience, like, what have you masturbated with? Like, what items in your house have you used to try to masturbate? And it was so fun and wonderful to like talk to a room full of people about like our anatomy and women's anatomy and like shout it out in a public space in DC. And it was just like very nice. And I think just like sharing stories and telling people they're not alone in the way they feel is really valuable.
So I'm gonna go a little off script, which I told you in the back. I love to do that. Not sure that anybody else loves that I do that, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So I'm a big fan of Oprah. Hopefully other people in the room are as well. Okay, well, maybe not the applause that Oprah used to get. Okay, thank you. But one of the questions that she always asks people when she interviews them, the very last question that she asks is, what do you know for sure? And so I ask you that question. What do you know for sure?
I know for sure that I'll be okay. I don't know about like the world or like humanity, but I know I'm gonna do what I can do to make sure I'm okay. Yeah, I think it gets really bleak when you think like big picture, like worldly stuff. But I know like everyone in my community is lovely, and I feel so much love and support, and they all genuinely want like peace and to feel good. And so I think when I like try to micro think about my life, I feel very good. It gets scary when you go a little bit farther out, but I know in my circle, in my world, I'm gonna be okay.
I love that, actually, and I want to applaud that, because sometimes I think for a lot of us in the work that we do, we forget that we probably have less control than we think we do. But where we do have control, is in our inner circles, right? With our friends, with our family, with the person that we engage with on the street. Like, we can choose to be kind. We can choose to help out someone. We can choose to be love in the world, be peace in the world, even be laughter and joy in the world, even if it is not around us. And so I really appreciate you saying that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We have a few minutes for questions. I don't know if we have mics. Yep, we do. I've got a thumbs up that we have mics. And if you could, a couple of rules on the questions. If you could say your name and your organization, if you want to say where you're from, that's great. And then if you could actually ask a question. So we know there are probably lots of commentary, which is all very brilliant, but we just want to make sure that we have time for everyone. So if we could actually get a question, and please make sure to introduce yourself, that would be wonderful.
I'll also take compliments.
Compliments are also welcomed.
Oh, that's very nice.
I was going to say, I mean, absolutely stunning. And I assume that part of your advice would have been to stay hydrated because you look amazing. And
Thank
so
you.
I'm just going to tell myself, like, continue drinking more water.
I love
my
water.
note for
Yeah.
self. Yes.
Hi.
Question, yes, thank you.
Hi, my name is Lolan Sevilla. I am the organizer at Funders for Justice. As a fellow union member, I would love to hear if you have any examples of beautiful moments of solidarity during the strike that you've experienced amongst cross-labor movements. And then what can we do to amplify and support y'all in your fight?
Thank you for asking that. It's a little bit of an uncertain time with the strikes, but it is really nice to see different departments of the union coming together for this common goal. And there's like a fund that you can donate to. You can go to the WGA website or the SAG website, and that money goes to crew members or people who are severely affected by the strike because they're not working right now. And the fact that we have that is beautiful. The fact that we have so many different departments who are picketing every day, and then we have people who are just like buying food trucks for people or trying to create shade because studios are cutting trees down so that we can't march anymore. I think it's a strange time, but it's also really empowering because I don't know if I've felt a moment working in TV and film where I felt so unified with other departments that aren't actors or writers, and I think it's cool, and I hope that energy stays even when we're not on strike. I hope we remember this moment and remember that we are all in this together. We want to work, we want to create art, we want to hear human stories, and we'll just continue to do that together.
I think for those of us, yes, please round of applause. I think for those of us who work in the movement space, like just watching the strike from afar has been really amazing.
Yeah.
And when it did leak that they were cutting down trees, and just really unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then wasn't there the comment that like, we'll wait till they have to sell their houses,
Yeah.
right? Like we'll wait it out.
Yeah.
Just a lot of just really important lessons for those of us who are in movement spaces, whether personally or professionally.
Yeah, it's it's surprising how inhumane some stuff has been, but I do have hope still. I do think we'll reach a point where hopefully all parties are happy. And you guys are the consumers. We are creating art for the people, so you can also tell the studios what you want. You guys are not going to get many Christmas movies this year because we haven't been making them. But I think, like I said before, big businesses pay attention to where the money's going. So if you're like, I actually don't want to see a movie made by AI, they'll hopefully listen. And we'll see what happens.
We are watching, for sure. We have another question in the back. Yeah.
Hey. My name's Brandy. My pronouns are they, she. I'm with the National Committee for Responsive Philanthropy, but I'm an abortion organizer, just thankfully. But I talk a lot with funds about the importance of like listening to like abortion storytellers. I know that organizers have had conversations around like consumption and like on TV, on screen, how abortion stories are told. And I hear a lot of it from the front lines, but I would love, like from consumers, I would love to hear from somebody creating that kind of brilliance. What are your thoughts around just like how abortion stories are told, and like what do you think it would look like for them to be like radically on screen for folks to really understand how abortions are happening?
Yeah. Well, the shows that I've been a part of, as far as I've known, they have brought someone in to communicate how to appropriately talk about this on screen and in scripts. And sometimes you'll have someone in a writer's room who has experienced that. And I think that's like why we need diversity in writers' rooms and behind the camera, so we can have stories like this, because you don't want a man or someone who's never experienced this to just guess and write what they think that's supposed to look like. Yeah, and I've seen some abortion storylines, I think, done pretty well on TV, and I hope people who have experienced it continue to be able to collaborate in those realms, because I think the more exposure the general public has to it, the less taboo it's going to be, the less scary it's going to seem, the less, like, just the more knowledge that we have about it, the better. And I think TV, since it's such a prevalent form of media that people consume, is a great way for people to see that.
That's a great question. Thank you. Question over here. Oh, sorry. Right here.
Hi, my name's Maria from Women's Fund Miami, and I'm wondering about the specific campaigns that you're working on with the ACLU, and that same kind of question. Is there anything specifically that we can do to help amplify that work?
Yeah, I work with the Women's Rights Project, and it's kind of like, I guess I'm like work for hire. Whatever they need me for, I'll do. But I've made sketch videos for them, I've done speeches for them, I've spoken at different events for them, and I guess right now it is the lack of or restriction of reproductive rights for women. And yeah, I don't know specifically what you can do, but I think just spreading awareness of what's happening and talking about it is helpful. Yeah. But thankfully, the ACLU is like doing all they can, and I feel like what we've been doing together is like I've been taking the law stuff they do and turning it into comedy in more like, I guess, a digestible form, or like a quippy joke that's like easy to send to somebody. And then they've also been informing me, which has been super helpful for even my material, because like there's things that I didn't know about, like the mortality rate of Black women when it comes to birth, and then I now talk about that in my special, and it's been a really great symbiotic relationship where I'm getting a lot of information, and then also I'm helping them amplify what they're working on.
I wonder if you think that type of relationship is clearly very fruitful and very, very beneficial to you and very beneficial to the ACLU. And I'm just curious, is that something that you would encourage the rest of us to really think about, right? Like really looking to artists to tell the stories that perhaps our reports and our white papers, which we all love.
Yeah.
Can't.
I think so, yeah, because I do feel like artists are in a unique position where they can comment on what's happening in society, but also make it in an artful way. Like I was on a TV show, and this was the week that Trump was elected to presidency, and it was kind of, yeah, we don't like that.
Ooh, yeah, we agree.
And I remember it was like a really bleak week, and people were kind of, I truly was like, I don't want to like write jokes. I don't want to like think about what's funny when this is happening. But then someone during our table read read a Toni Morrison quote about like how artists are the people that you look to in times of despair or hardships, and it's our job to rise to the occasion and tell people what's going on and like how you should feel. And I think that's wonderful. Like I think you shouldn't look only to artists, but I do think artists are an important voice when people are kind of at a loss for words, because we have so many words.
Yes, and I love the quote. I think Banksy was credited for it, but I don't think he said he, she, they. I'm not. No one knows who Banksy is.
Yeah.
But
Banksy.
You were Banksy is here, everyone. We have solved it.
Yeah.
We know who Banksy is. But that art has this responsibility to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is just so illustrative and to what you were saying, for sure. Questions? Sorry. Yes, in the back.
Sorry, coming.
You're doing great.
Hi, Jenny Stedman, Aurora Women and Girls Foundation in Hartford, Connecticut. I'm a big fan of the Best Friends podcast that you do with Nicole Byer, and I was thinking about how often that brings me joy, when I'm having a difficult week. And I was wondering if you would talk a little bit about female friendship and why it's important and how it sustains you.
Yeah, thank you for listening to the podcast. I love doing that show because, we get to catch up. We just get to hang out as friends. But I didn't realize how few shows or pieces of media talked about adult friendship or female friendship. There's so many things that talk about like parenthood or romantic relationships, but your friendships are also a massive part of your life, or I think so. Some people don't, but if your romantic relationships come and go, ideally your friends are still there. And I like doing the show because it also helps me and Nicole reflect on our own relationship and like how has our friendship affected our careers and our romantic partnerships and our lives in general. But yeah, I think it's really fun to talk about friendship, and then we'll have other best friends come on the show and we'll interview them about their friendship, and I just love it so much because I just love hearing people talk about their love of their friend, because it's really valuable and important, and I feel like my friends are my chosen family, so I like having people think about that and analyze it and try to improve the relationships in their life.
I love that. Yes, I have lots of all types of friends, but female friendships that have meant so much to me, right? And just having someone who knows you, who can check you, that's always really important. So thank you for that. Any other questions? We have a few more minutes. Yes, right
Hi,
there.
thank you. My name is Alika Morgan, and I'm with Nurturing Wahine Fund in Hawaii. I'm just thinking about something Melanie mentioned, Miss Winfrey, and something she said. So I had the opportunity to connect her to an organization in Hawaii, and she gave this virtual message of support, and she donated. And one of the things she said to me was, comedy is persuasive communication. And Melanie brought up her name, and I thought about it, and I'm like, yeah, because you have to be so brilliant to do it, and then you're convincing people to think a certain way. So as we leave here today, I'm thinking about my long flight back home. I'm gonna be thinking on the plane how, of all the things I've learned in this conference, how I can be a better communicator and more persuasive in sharing about gender equity. Can you give us some tips? Like, I can't be, well, I think I'm funny, but probably not. So like, if you're not a comedian, how can I be a persuasive communicator like you are?
Well, being truthful. There's truth in comedy, and I think it's hard when you try to be funny, because people can tell. But when you're being truthful and honest, I think it'll just come out naturally. The first time I remember making a crowd laugh, I was in high school, and I did this program called Who's Your Girl State, and it was like a mini government camp in Indiana. And we went to Ball State University, and they just took 2 girls from every high school in Indiana, and we learned about the government, and we ran for office and whatnot. I ran for lieutenant governor and won for my party. And then you had to do a speech in front of the whole camp, and there's like 800 girls. And I only wrote one joke. It was like, there was like one dorm that had a rickety elevator, and I was like, you better vote for me before you die in this elevator. And everyone's like, oh my God, she said the thing. And then everything I said after that got a laugh, even though I wrote one joke, but they just liked my cadence or like the way I was saying things. Like to me, I wasn't writing jokes. I was just writing what I thought was a good speech and like one joke at the top. But I don't think you need to try to be like stand-up level funny. People like when you're trying to like connect with them on a general level, and I think it'll pay off.
Yes, we have 2 more questions, and I think we have time for both of them. Oh, 3 more questions. Wait.
Is that a joke? Oh, no. I'm on strike. Did you not hear me?
Okay, yes, Ova.
Yes, hi, Offa from the Pacific. And I just, we live in such a prescriptive society. Everybody's going on Google to find out how, why. So I just want to ask you a simple question, because there's so many serious people in the world. How many times should we be laughing a week?
I mean,
Great question.
I laugh every day. So I think ideally every day. I think, it's possible not to, but why? I don't know. There's so many things that are funny. And they say laughter's the best medicine, etc. But I do think it does like release some stuff in your body that can feel cathartic or meditative. Yeah, I think you probably should be laughing every day.
What makes you laugh?
Those goats that sound like humans. That honestly, if I don't feel like laughing or I feel like I am in a bad mood, I will put that on YouTube and laugh at that. My friends make me laugh a lot. Yeah, a lot of things make me laugh. But it feels good physically. It feels good emotionally. Because you don't want to get in a point where you're like in a funk for too long and not laughing. I think it's healthy to laugh often.
Yes. Agree. Oh, okay. I'm going to take a little presenter or fireside chatter privilege, and we're going to take these last 2 questions together. Just one? You're giving up?
Hey y'all, Chica. I'm Jay from Washington Area Women's Foundation. I'm just curious, this is a follow-up to the last question, but who makes you laugh? Like, who's an up-and-coming person that you find really, really funny, or who else among your peers really, really enjoy listening to?
My best friends Nicole Byer and Mateo Lane make me laugh a lot. Wanda Sykes makes me laugh a lot. Who's up and coming that I know that I like? Nori Reed is really funny. Mary Beth Barone. Sam Taggart. Yeah, there's a lot of great comedy happening right now. And mostly me.
Do you think we're in a moment of great comedy?
I think so, yeah. Maybe we're always in a moment of great comedy. I mean, there's always good comedy, but I do think we're in a moment where there's more self-starters, because you can just put your stuff online. You don't need anyone. Like, you don't need a studio to be behind you. You don't need anyone to buy your stuff. You can just put it out and people can see it. And then you can like perform live and people can go see you. And I think that's a really empowering thing where it's like, I don't need to wait for gatekeepers. I can just put it out there. And I like that.
Great times. The best of times. You have our last question.
Wait, no pressure. Well, actually, this one is a bit more future-oriented, so I'm Jasmine. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Jasmine.
There's a mic coming. Give us 1 second. Because we are doing closed captioning, so we want to make sure that we can hear you.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Jasmine. I work for The Bloom, which is my organization. And I'm just curious, looking at the future, Feminist funded 2024. I'm a big fan of spicy questions, so this one's going to be a bit spicy. If you were to organize Feminist funded 2024, because you mentioned, I heard you say, humor as a tool for relaxation. It's something that it really is a powerful tool for social change. And you alluded to also the authenticity and just being honest is so it makes people laugh. But I'm wondering if you were to organize a conference like this and embed some of the elements of humor into it to help us see each other and connect with each other more deeply, how would you organize a conference like this?
Oh, I think I would keep the conference as it is, but maybe I would end it with a comedy show. You could have a comedy show tonight, and then invite a bunch of feminists, LGBTQ people to speak their truth and connect to people.
Elizabeth, did you get that? Did you get that's written down? Well, but I think what you're saying, and it's also what we tried to do last night with Belladonna, we have to infuse art and joy and laughter and dancing into all that we're doing, right? And so I think last night, Elizabeth, you were telling people you can have the meeting later, just come onto the dance floor and have a good time. And so definitely more of that for Feminist Funded 25. We actually will not be together next year, but we will be together in 2025. Whoa, okay, I'm being told, yes, one more.
I'll be really fast.
You've got it.
Hi,
No
Nadia Siddiqui, Women's Foundation of Minnesota. And I'm going to break the rules because everyone got their questions in. I want to tell you a personal story because I'm afraid they're going to whisk you away. Last year, my daughter Layla got her period at age 10. And she cried hard and hard and hard and wouldn't leave our house for 2 days. And then this video popped up on my news feed of you. And that incredibly funny comedy act about women's experiences getting periods and comparing it to men having heart attacks and tampon commercials talking about, go ride a horse. I don't want to ride a horse. I won't try to be funny like you. You do it much better. But I just wanted to tell you that my 10-year-old daughter wouldn't leave her house for 2 days. And then when I saw that video and I showed it to her, she watched it over and over and asked me to take her for ice cream. So I just want to say thank you for your comedy. You are amazing. So thank you, thank you.
Thank you for telling me that. I really appreciate that. That's all I want. That's all I want is for people to connect to what I'm saying and feel seen and get ice cream.
Thank you so much for sharing that story.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you. Thank you so much for your time. This was wonderful. Please, everyone, let's give Sasheer a round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
This is great.